My Last Duchess is a poem written by Robert Browning in 1842. It is a dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue means that the entire poem is spoken by one character. In this poem, it is the Duke of Ferrara, a wealthy nobleman in Renaissance Italy, who is talking to a visitor. The visitor is an envoy who represents a family whose daughter the Duke is planning to marry. As they walk through his home, the Duke shows the visitor a portrait of his last wife, who is now dead. As he talks about the painting and his former wife, the Duke unknowingly reveals a lot about his character, his arrogance, jealousy, and desire to control. The Duke starts by pointing out the painting on the wall. It is a portrait of his last Duchess, and he says how lifelike it looks. He praises the painter, Fra Pandolf, and says that it took a lot of work to get such a realistic expression. The Duke says he likes to mention the painter's name because people often look at the painting and ask how the Duchess got that sweet, happy expression on her face. The Duke is the only one who pulls back the curtain to show the painting, so he controls who sees it and when. He explains that people have wondered what caused the Duchess to have that blush or that soft look in her eyes. The Duke says that it wasn't just his presence that made her look that way. He imagines that perhaps the painter said something flattering while working, maybe commenting on how her shawl looked or how no paint could match the natural blush of her skin. The Duke seems annoyed that such small compliments could make her blush, and he criticizes her for being too easily pleased. The Duke continues by saying that his former wife smiled at everything and everyone. She found joy in simple things, whether it was the sunset, a cherry branch someone picked from her, or riding a white mule. She also smiled when he gave her a fancy gift, but she treated all these things as equally delightful. This made the Duke angry because he believed his gifts and his noble family name deserved more special treatment. He thought she should have appreciated him more than the small things or the ordinary people around her. Even though he felt this way, the Duke says he would never lower himself by talking to her about it directly. He thinks it would be shameful to confront her and tell her that her behavior bothered him. He imagines saying something like, "You did too much of this, or "You did too little of that," but quickly says he refused to ever have that kind of conversation. In his eyes, it would have been beneath him. Instead of talking to her, the Duke did something far more extreme. He says that her cells stopped forever, which strongly suggests that he had her killed. He gives this information in a casual way, as if it were just a necessary decision. Now she only lives on in the painting, where he has total control. She can no longer smile at anyone else, and he alone decides who sees her. After finishing the story about his former wife, the Duke changes the subject and invites the visitor to walk with him. He says they should rejoin the rest of the group downstairs. The Duke mentions the Count, who is the father of the woman he wants to marry next. He compliments the Count on being generous with money and says that any dowry he asks for will surely be given. But then the Duke quickly adds that he is more interested in the Count's daughter herself, not the money. However, the way he brings up the dowry first and then tries to cover it up suggests that money is still an important factor for him. As they head downstairs, the Duke points out another piece of art in his home, a statue of the god Neptune taming a wild seahorse. He proudly shows and says that it was specifically made for him by Claus of Innsbruck. This final image highlights how the Duke sees the world. He admires power, control, and beauty, especially when they are his to own and dominate. Throughout the poem, the Duke presents himself as cultured and refined, but his words reveal a darker truth. He is a man obsessed with control. He could not stand that his former wife was kind and joyful toward everyone. Instead of appreciating her for who she was, he wanted her to treat him as more important than anyone else. And when she did not, he got rid of her. The poem becomes a subtle but strong critique of how powerful men in history, and sometimes even now, treat women as possessions, people with thoughts and feelings of their own. By the end of the poem, the reader realizes that the Duke is not just showing off his art collection, he is showing off his control over life and death. He wants a new life and new wife, and he expects her to behave exactly as he wishes. Through the Duke's monologue, Browning exposes the dangers of pride, jealousy, and power in relationships, all hidden behind polite conversation and artful speech. Let's see the themes of the poem. In My Last Duchess, the Duke of Ferrara speaks to a messenger about a painting of his former wife, the last Duchess. As he describes the painting and his late wife, it becomes clear that the Duke saw her as a possession, not as a person. He was upset that she smiled at others, accepted compliments, and enjoyed simple pleasures like sunsets or gifts. The Duke believed that she should have valued only him and his noble family name, but she treated everyone kindly and happily, something he could not tolerate. The Duke did not confront her directly, saying it would be beneath him to explain his displeasure. Instead, he gave commands that stopped her smiles, strongly suggesting that he had her killed. Now he keeps her smile locked in a painting that only he can reveal to others, showing how much he values control over people, especially women. Browning uses this story to show how powerful men, like the Duke, treat women as objects. The Duke prizes the painting and its famous artist not because of love, but to show off his wealth and status. He refers to his new bride as his object and lays to a statue of Neptune taming a seahorse, another symbol of control. He wants everything around him, including his wife, to obey and praise him.